Today I'm going to show you about the truth behind the organization Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks is one of the most well-known autistic advocacy groups. They are the world's leading advocacy and research team. Some of the things Autism Speaks does are host awareness events, fund research projects, and claim to genuinely care about autistic people and their families. This sounds like a great organization and should be supported, right? Wrong. There are actually many people who disagree with Autism Speaks, and rightfully so, as can be seen on quotes from their blog posts. To help you understand what so many people have against this company, we will look at four main questions: who makes up the board, where their funding goes, what research they are doing, and what language they use surrounding autism. First, who makes up this board of directors? There are 8 executive members, 0 of whom are autistic. There are 30 board members, and only one of these men are autistic, Dr. Stephen Shore, and it also should be noted that a former autistic board member quit after realizing his words and efforts had no real impact. So what's bad with only having one autistic member? Well, it portrays autistics as nonverbal, when in reality 60% of them are capable of speaking. Also, they do not ask autistic people what they want to be fighting for. If they did, they would realize that autistic people have a voice and a desire to speak, and they want to fight for their own rights. And an organization as big as this obviously has a lot of funding, but where does their funding go? According to the website, it goes to global biomedical research, raising public awareness of autism, and bringing hope to all who deal with the hardships of autism or have a family member living with it. The website does not show you the individual breakup of where their funding goes, but if you look at their nonprofit tax exemption form, then you'll be able to see how it is split up. The question then becomes, why does this matter? What is wrong with how they choose to spend their money? Well, actually, a majority goes to unwanted research, which we will touch on next. Another large portion goes to fundraising, which they do by using rhetoric of tragedy and burden to raise money, creating a stigma around autism. And finally, So as you saw, the majority of the funding goes into research. And what kind of research? That will be shown through the video series Ask an Autistic. As I mentioned earlier, Autism Speaks creates a stigma. One of the ways they did so was through their I Am Autism campaign, which stated, "I am autism. I derive great pleasure out of your loneliness. I will fight to take away your hope." That was just a portion of what they said during this campaign. So how do people respond to this? Actually, quite negatively. The Autistic Self-Advocacy Network president sent out a post that said, "Autism Speaks sunk to a new low this week, even for them, presenting autistic people as burdens on society, on our families, and on our world at large." Another way stigma was created was from the co-founder's call to action letter. She said things such as, "We've lost touch with 3 million American children. These families are not living, and life is lived in despair in fear of the future," among many other things that dehumanized people living with autism. So how did people respond to this? Again, not too positively. The CEO of the ARC, an organization that fights for the rights of people living with disabilities, wrote in an open letter, "Your description of children with autism and their families is polarizing and divisive. It is far from reality for many people with autism whom I know." If Autism Speaks should not be supported, then who should? Well, one organization that I just mentioned was the ARC, and they define people by the strengths, abilities, and inherent value, not by their disability. Also, they believe that they are entitled to respect, dignity, equality, safety, and security. So how does this group differ from Autism Speaks? Well, first of all, it doesn't define people by their disability, which Autism Speaks does. Also, Autism Speaks spends time and money attempting to rid society of autistic people rather than creating a safe community for them to live in. Another group that should be supported is the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. Their biggest thing is that they are an organization run by and for autistic people. So how do they differ from Autism Speaks? Well, Autism Speaks only has one autistic person on their board, and if he is treated anything like the former autistic employee, his views are not taken into account. So just a few closing thoughts on Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks is not an advocacy group. An advocacy group would take the time to listen to the people they are advocating for, which Autism Speaks clearly does not do. So I encourage you, if you want to support autism, look for a different organization to do it through.
created using Powtoon.